The Mercedes GLE is undoubtedly the better car to drive. If we were judging purely on how a car feels at 80 miles per hour on the Autobahn, the contest would be over before it started. The German chassis tuning is superior. The sound insulation is denser. The badge carries more weight at the Country Club Valet. But is that feeling worth the $20,000 premium you will pay in depreciation and repairs over the next 5 years? Let's start with the money you lose while you sleep. Depreciation is the single largest cost of owning a luxury vehicle, yet it's the one nobody sees until they try to trade the car in. If you buy a brand new Mercedes GLE 350 today, you are likely paying somewhere between $65,000 and $75,000 depending on options. The minute you drive it off the lot, the clock starts ticking on what I call the German warranty cliff. According to aggregated data from CarEdge and Black Book, a Mercedes GLE will lose approximately 48 to 52% of its value in the first 5 years. Think about that. In 5 years, half of your asset has evaporated. On a $70,000 car, that is a loss of roughly $35,000. That is $7,000 a year, over $500 a month, just for the privilege of parking it in your driveway. Now, look at the Lexus RX 350. The data shows it losing between 33 and 39% over the same period. Because the initial purchase price is also lower, typically starting around $50,000, the total dollar loss is significantly less. You're looking at losing roughly $20,000 in value over 5 years. That is a $15,000 gap. Right there, before we have even paid for a single oil change or a tank of gas, the Mercedes has cost you the price of a decent used Corolla just in lost value. Why does the market punish the Mercedes so severely? It's not because people don't like them. It's because the second-hand market knows exactly what happens to these cars when the warranty expires. And that brings us to the engineering. The primary reason the Mercedes rides so well is the optional aromatic suspension. Instead of simple steel coils, the car rides on rubber bladders filled with compressed air. It is a brilliant system. It can raise the car for clearance, lower it for aerodynamics, and actively smooth out bumps. From a physics standpoint, it is superior. From an ownership standpoint, it is a ticking time bomb. Rubber creates a seal. Rubber also dries out, cracks, and degrades with ozone and heat. It is not a matter of if an air strut will leak, but when. On a Mercedes SUV, it is common to see air strut failures between 60,000 and 100,000 miles. When one fails, the compressor, which is just a small electric pump, has to work overtime to keep the bag inflated. If you ignore the leak for a week, the compressor burns out. Now, look at the Lexus. It uses the TNGA-K platform. It rides on McPherson struts up front and a multi-link rear. It uses steel coil springs. Do you know what happens to a steel coil spring after 10 years? Nothing. It's a piece of metal. It might sag a millimeter. The shock absorbers will eventually wear out, yes, but replacing a standard hydraulic shock is a few $100s. There are no compressors to burn out, no valve blocks to corrode, no level sensors to malfunction. The Lexus engineers accepted a slightly busier ride, maybe 5% less isolated than the Mercedes, in exchange for 100% more reliability. This is the core philosophical difference. Mercedes solves problems with complex active systems. Lexus solves problems by refining simple passive systems. As a first owner, you might prefer the active system. As a long-term owner, you want the steel. Let's move to the powertrains. The GLE 450 uses a 3.0-liter inline-six. It is a magnificent engine, silky smooth, perfectly balanced. But it is married to a 48-volt mild hybrid system called EQ Boost. This is a mild hybrid. It uses an integrated starter generator sandwiched between the engine and transmission. It allows for seamless stop-start and allows the car to coast with the engine off. The problem is the layer of complexity this adds. You now have a 12-volt electrical system for your lights and radio, and a separate 48-volt system for the engine accessories. We have seen reports of 48-volt battery malfunctions and sensor issues that leave the car completely bricked. If that 48-volt battery fails out of warranty, it is not something you pick up at AutoZone for $200. It is a proprietary, high-voltage component. Now consider the Lexus RX 350h. It uses the 2.5-liter A25A FXS engine paired with a Toyota hybrid system too. This is critical. Toyota has been building this exact architecture for 25 years. People complain about the CVT drone in a Lexus. There is practically nothing inside the transmission to brake. The Mercedes uses the 9G Tronic transmission. It has 9 gears, multiple clutch packs, and an incredibly complex valve body to manage hydraulic pressure. It shifts beautifully. But at 120,000 miles, which one do you trust? The box full of clutches and solenoids shifting thousands of times an hour? Or the box of gears that are permanently meshed together? The Lexus hybrid battery will eventually fail, usually around year 12 or 15. But because Toyota has sold 20 million of them, a replacement is $2,000 and any independent shop can do it. A Mercedes 48-volt system repair. That is a dealer-only mystery box. Inside, the Mercedes wins the showroom war. The MBUX infotainment system is stunning. The augmented reality navigation projects arrows onto the camera feed. The voice assistant actually understands you. It feels like the future. But electronics are the first thing to age and the hardest thing to fix. Consumer reports and owner forums are full of GLE owners reporting blank screens, MBUX system reboots, and sensor glitches that trigger a cascade of warning lights. When you pack a car with this much processing power, you are essentially driving a laptop. And how well does your 5-year-old laptop run today? The Lexus RX interior is fine. The new 14-inch interface is a huge improvement over the old trackpad, but it's still basic compared to MBUX. However, look at the buttons. You have physical knobs for temperature. You have real buttons for volume. The Mercedes buries these functions in capacitive touch sliders or screen menus. Why does this matter for cost? Because a physical switch rarely fails. A capacitive touch sensor integrated into a $3,000 OLED screen is a single point of failure that requires replacing the entire dashboard unit. German luxury is often defined by features per dollar. Japanese luxury is defined by execution per dollar. The Mercedes gives you more features. The Lexus ensures the features you have will actually work in 2032. The Lexus RX 350 averages around $551 per year for maintenance, according to RepairPal data. But the real difference is in the consumables. Service A and Service B. If you own a Mercedes, you know these terms. Service A is basically an oil change and checks. Service B is an oil change, brake fluid, cabin filters, and checks. At a dealership, Service A often runs $300 to $500. Service B can run $600 to $900. And you alternate them every year. That means simply keeping the warranty valid on a GLE costs you roughly $600 to $800 a year on average, assuming nothing breaks. Mercedes uses soft, high-performance brake pads and rotors. They bite hard and stop fast. But they also dust heavily and wear out quickly. It is standard procedure on German SUVs to replace the rotors every time you replace the pads because the rotors are soft. A brake job on a GLE can easily top $1,200 per axle at the dealer. The Lexus uses standard metallic or ceramic pads. The rotors often last through 2 or 3 sets of pads. A brake job on an RX is closer to $400 or $500 per axle. Over 50,000 miles, you might do brakes twice on the Mercedes and once on the Lexus. That's another $1,500 difference. There is a hidden economic factor here called parts bin engineering. The Lexus RX is built on the TNGA-K platform. This is the same architecture that sits under the Toyota Highlander, the Toyota Camry, and the RAV4. The Mercedes GLE sits on the MHA platform. It is shared with the GLS, and that's about it. It is a specialized, rear-wheel drive-based luxury architecture. The parts are unique. They are lower volume. Lower volume means higher prices. You are paying a rarity tax on every bolt and sensor. The Lexus owner is benefiting from the Camry discount. So let's add it all up. We are assuming a 5-year ownership period, driving 12,000 miles a year. First, depreciation. Lexus, minus $20,000. Mercedes, minus $35,000. Advantage Lexus, $15,000. Second, maintenance and repairs. We'll be generous to Mercedes and assume nothing catastrophic fails, just routine service AB and brakes/tires. Lexus, $3,500. Mercedes, $7,500, higher tire costs, higher brake costs, service AB. Advantage Lexus, $4,000. Third, fuel. If we compare the RX 350h Hybrid, 36 miles per gallon combined, to the GLE 350, 23 miles per gallon combined, over 60,000 miles, assuming gas is $4 per gallon. Lexus uses 1,666 gallons equals $6,664. Mercedes uses 2,608 gallons equals $10,432. And the Mercedes requires premium fuel, while the Lexus runs on regular. Advantage Lexus, $3,700. The Mercedes GLE is a $70,000 car that costs like a $100,000 car to own. The Lexus RX is a $55,000 car that costs like a $30,000 car to own.